Rescue 117 is the Irish Coast Guard's rescue helicopter service based at Waterford Airport. For 6 months, RTE cameras have followed this unit as they battle against the elements to save lives. On this show, a heart attack on the fast ferry from Fishguard to Rosslare.
Go position. And check out the winch.
A seriously injured man requires rescuing from his snowbound home.
You're giving them a Christmas to remember.
Thanks very much for your copy.
And a long-range mission on the edge of operation limits to rescue a man.
Just been tasked to a vessel approximately 170 miles southwest of Castletownbere.
There are hundreds of weekly shipping services from Ireland to ports in the UK, France and beyond. There are over 17 million tonnes of traded goods and over 12 million passengers between Ireland and the UK each year alone. With so many people travelling by ferry, medical emergencies often occur. The crew of Rescue 117 regularly train with ship's crews. Back at base, winch operator Neville Murphy has just returned from a training exercise.
The training is very important to us to keep us sharp and keep us at the cutting edge of our job. We do try to train hard to fight hard.
A few days later, the training is about to become very useful. The crew don't know what they are going to face, but they know they have trained for every eventuality.
We got the call coming through on our scramble phone from MRCC asking for immediate assistance to a passenger that had severe chest pains.
On duty today is pilot Martin Rayner, co-pilot Ronan Flanagan, winch operator Chris Maddy and winchman Neil McAdam.
We were doing about 140 knots, which meant transit time to the actual vessel was only about 14 minutes.
Just off the Rosslare coastline, the Stena ferry calls in an emergency as one of their passengers needs to get to hospital fast.
Bedway, Roger, course on the door. 90 feet, cancel course for the door. 70 feet. We'll try and get him down onto the open deck, Martin, will we?
We'll get you on deck, Mac, and then you choose whether we do it from there or the next deck down where the people are.
Okay, we'll get ready in the back. Checking the winchman's equipment. Okay, and happy. It goes. We'll be steady. Steady. Go position. And check out the winch.
How's it going? I went into where the casualty was and I could see that he was in a lot of pain and a lot of distress.
What we need to do is see these chairs. Can we move them out of the way? The closer to that door is the better, because that's where the stretcher's coming in.
I spoke to his wife. The wife was able to give me some very useful information in relation to his past medical history. There was a very real possibility that he was actually having a heart attack.
Speed is now of the essence, and with a suspected cardiac arrest, the casualty needs to be winched up in a stretcher.
Put the stretcher out the door. Check out the winch. Out the winch. Okay. Such a safe way to clear forward now.
I asked him on a scale of 1 to 10 where the pain was, and he just waved me off. He couldn't even answer that. So that told me that the pain was really severe.
Since they have trained together recently, the crew of the Stena ferry know exactly what to do, saving precious seconds.
Which one has the hook? Steady. 15 feet of cable to run. Just coming up under the door now, Mark. Bringing on towards the door. Just going to swing the stretcher around. Okay, you have voice control. And winch out. Winch out. Winch out. Winch out. Stop winching. Stop winch.
If you have a man in a stretcher on his back, that can compromise his airway. There's a very real possibility when you're in so much pain and distress that you're going to throw up.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? We'll have you in the hospital very soon. I'm just going to put a mask over your face to give you some oxygen.
If he was to throw up and the vomit was to go down his trachea, what happens is that the enzymes start digesting his lung tissue and causes serious lung damage.
Rescue 117, we have the casualty on board, and we'll let you know when we're 2 minutes out from Waterford.
Gear down?
Yep, gear is down,
Gear is down, yeah.
Winchman Neil McAdam hands the patient over to an ambulance service who will deliver him to the nearby Waterford Regional Hospital. The casualty is treated and a few days later is discharged. However, on this mission, the crew of Rescue 117 have had a close call of their own. The engineers have to be called.
The problem was up in the top gearbox area. There's 2 gearboxes, and it was the top gearbox that was indicating that it was overheating. Both of those gearboxes have oil inside. They both have temperature gauges and warnings in the cockpit to tell us if there's an impending problem in there. And they can tell us if the gearbox is breaking up because we have a chip warning, or they can tell us that the gearbox is overheating, i.e. possible loss of oil, through a temperature warning. So there's 2 separate warnings. Both, from our point of view, have the same seriousness in the context that if we get that warning, we have to land as soon as possible. And it's impending that the tail rotor might actually fail. If it happens in forward flight that the gearbox itself seizes up, the gearbox itself can possibly catastrophically fail, causing the whole tail to come off. And if that happens, then it would most likely be fatal.
An afternoon call comes in on the scramble phone from the Marine Rescue and Coordination Centre in Dublin. A man on board a fishing vessel has broken his ankle.
As soon as I walked into the ops room, I could see the lads out with the marine charts. And basically, Ireland looked very, very small and there was a lot of blue. So I knew it was a long-range job.
On duty are pilot Barry O'Connor, co-pilot Lee Bennett, winch operator Neville Murphy and winchman Keith Devaney.
Just been tasked to a vessel approximately 170 miles southwest of Castletownbere. So because of the big distance, we're going to have to fly to Castletownbere, take on fuel there.
The vessel is 130 miles out at sea. This is very close to the aircraft's operating limits. The helicopter can refuel at a purpose-built refuelling station at Castletownbere. This will extend the time the crew can stay in the air.
He's going to be on a heading towards Castletownbere, so we're going to have an intercept point at that stage when we get there of approximately 120 to 130 miles. We'll calculate that now as we go.
In Dublin, the Irish Air Corps have also been tasked to provide assistance to the helicopter crew. On long-range jobs, the Irish Air Corps provide top cover to the crew of Rescue 117.
I requested top cover because we were going so far offshore. We knew it would be approximately 130 miles by the time we intercepted the vessel. There's a danger that we would lose communications with Valencia Coast Guard radio. By having another aircraft there at a higher altitude, they would basically form the direct line, if you like, for communications.
3 hours after they got the call out, the helicopter arrives within sight of the fishing vessel. Winchman Keith Devaney scans the ship with the onboard flare camera.
So far, a lot of obstacles from the front to rear of the vessel as well.
So we're thinking about where we're going to put them on, where we're going to put them off. The weather at the moment looks fairly good outside, very calm seas. So we're hopeful it'll be a quite standard deck for us.
The boat was actually very light. It only just commenced fishing. It was actually pitching a lot more than we expected to pitch, given the fact that the sea was very benign. Most of the ballast for a fishing vessel is actually the load of fish itself.
Because of the ship's movement, it's not a straightforward task to winch onto the vessel. With the rolling decks, Keith the winchman searches for a safe place to receive the stretcher from the helicopter.
We actually tried the bow. We got the boat to turn. It was called a downwind deck, but we're pulling way too much power. We turned them around again back to the original spot. We put the stretcher down using the highline technique.
The crew of the fishing vessel bring the casualty to the deck. The man has injured his leg and has already been given first aid treatment. Even with the ship's movement, the winching is flawless. On board, the casualty is stable. They make the long journey back to shore. After flying for nearly 2 hours, the crew of Rescue 117 hand over the casualty to the ambulance service in Kerry. The man made a full recovery.
We have a very busy day today. The Mayor of Waterford very kindly is holding civic reception for ourselves and our families, just a recognition of everything we've done here at the base.
It's all about looking smart, isn't it?
It's good, looking gorgeous. Oh, it looks really well. It's our first outing for our foreman uniforms, because when we were going to any of these ceremonies or anything, we only had our flying suits, so we weren't looking like we were part of the Coast Guard. Between the civic reception and the new uniforms, it's going to be good. It's going to be good to see that. You're nodding at the snap.
Coming up, heavy snowfall leads to a dramatic rescue in the Blackstairs Mountains.
We'll be carrying you out into the fields and then winching you up, and I'll be with you when we're winching up.
And the future of the base in Waterford comes under threat.
The Department of Transport is planning to downgrade the Coast Guard search and rescue helicopter service in the southeast.
Helicopter Rescue 117 is based in Waterford. RTE cameras have been following the team and their rescues as they unfold. Every crew member of Rescue 117 expects to have at least one near-fatal accident in the course of their service. The winchmen are the ones most likely to sustain the most injuries. Even training missions are dangerous.
I don't know what way I'm coming across to you here.
Oh,
but I may seem calm and controlled, but I am a little bit apprehensive because of these conditions.
Pilots and winch crew are just really, really different. They're probably crazier than us. Actually, I don't even think I know they're crazier than us. They're unbelievable at times, unbelievably brave, and I do think again that their brains are wired. Sometimes, you know, you're sitting there, and if you are looking at a boat rocking and rolling or a really nasty cliff, their brains just seem to go somewhere else. They don't even seem to think about the fear, think about what they're facing down there. They just go, which is something I know personally that I could never do. That element of fear just doesn't seem to come into them in some ways. Like, obviously there's a huge healthy respect, and they can always, at any time when we get to a job, they can always turn around and say, no, look, I don't like it. And I'm doing this 16 years and I've never heard it. And then they get back up into the aircraft and then they have to deal with the casualty and stuff. So, yeah, I would have a healthy respect, and I would worry about them, and you do want to protect them as much as I want to kill them sometimes. All the slagging. But yeah, you do. We just want to get them back. We want to get him back safe, and we want to get the casualty back safe, and that's the main responsibility and the main role.
Christmas 2009 brought the heaviest snowfalls in 30 years. After a cold day of training, the crew are tired. But late into their shift, they are tasked with a mission.
It had been a quiet night. We got a call then up to the Blackstairs Mountains to an elderly couple in quite an isolated farmhouse.
The crew on duty are pilot Barry O'Connor, co-pilot Mark McDermott, winch operator Chris Maddy and winchman Mike Sandover.
would have been a routine ambulance call for a farmer and his wife, but unfortunately the whole area was very icy and an ambulance itself wasn't actually able to make it up to the scene.
The pilots must be careful of electricity and telephone lines crisscrossing the field and mountains.
You're approaching the shallow ridgeline now.
Okay. It's just on 11 o'clock, but if you maintain this heading, the wind's about 30 degrees from the left. And looking for a yellow light in our tractor. Okay, visual on the right-hand side there.
Here we are, here.
2 o'clock. Yeah, I'm going to go over the house, right, and over the tractor.
The ambulance service already had their four-wheel drives on scene with blue lights flashing, so that was a great assistance to us in actually pinpointing the location itself.
Okay. Checking Mike's equipment. Roger. Now he's moving over towards the door. Right. Hey, firm, you're clear to winch. Roger. We might be careful, that'll be slippy now.
Mike lands in a nearby field and is greeted by a neighbour who has lived on the mountain all his life.
I got a phone call Stevens this evening that Ivor was after falling, and I decided, knowing the terrain here, that I go over with the tractor, that I knew that the ambulance wouldn't be able to get back up out of here with him, like.
You're giving them a Christmas to remember?
Thanks very much for coming. You're very good.
No problem. We'll just, that's no hassle. We'll just be a few minutes now getting organised.
That's fine. Okay. I mean, your hands.
Ivor's wife, Alice, has also sustained an injury on the ice. She has broken her elbow. She is led to the aircraft first and is winched up. Mike goes down on the wire again, this time for Ivor, who has a potential serious neck injury.
We're just about to start moving the casualty now. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, what we're going to do now is carry you outside and put you into another stretcher. We'll be carrying you out into the field and then winching you up, and I'll be with you when we're winching up. Okay? Okay, let's go. Step down.
The helicopter burns more fuel when it is in a hover. They need to speed up the evacuation. Ivor's winch has to be done with care, as he may have spinal injuries. The casualties are brought to a local hospital.
My feet went from under me and I crashed down. And whether I passed out or not, I'm really to this day not too sure. But assuming I came to, I was very aware there was something wrong. And I tried to get up, and I found I couldn't. I found, in fact, I was paralyzed.
We were all inside by the big fire, and it was just by chance that I thought I had something on the line. I just dashed out in my slippers, wanting to bring it in. And I heard this strange moan, and it was quite far. I was up above the house, and this was below the house. So when I thought it might be Ivor, I went down and very careful on the ice. But then I saw him lying there. I forgot to be careful, and I ran towards him and slipped, and I landed beside him with a broken elbow.
I do remember this extraordinary experience of flashing lights, a most esoteric scene out of science fiction nearly, and then been whooshed up to this, literally a mothership. The end of the story is, I nearly feel so guilty I'm not worse after all that effort being put in.
Isolation isn't what it used to be, as long as we have the facilities that a modern society would have, like helicopters and a good wife.
In spring 2010, the crew of the Waterford base get some unexpected news.
The Department of Transport is planning to downgrade the Coast Guard search and rescue helicopter service in the southeast.
The service in the southeast is to become a 12-hour daylight-only service.
People out on the water 365 nights a year that need to know that their safety is being looked after.
The 16,000 people have already signed petitions or posted messages on Facebook calling for the retention of the nighttime search and rescue service at Waterford. The new contracts have not yet been signed, and pressure is expected to be brought to bear on the government over the next few weeks.
The Irish Coast Guard Search and Rescue Operations Manager Declan Gagan is on his way to the Waterford base. Until contracts are signed and negotiations are finished, the 24-hour service at the Waterford base hangs in the balance. Coming up next time, Rescue 117 is called to a woman who has fallen off her horse.
We're going to be on scene fairly shortly, if not on already.